there is almost no support for Ron Paul as a presidential candidate. Here's the math. To date, Ron Paul's 2012 presidential candidacy has raised approximately $13 million in donations as of September 2011. I sent him $40 about a month ago. Today, I sent another $25. I'm not at all wealthy. In fact, I have nothing but the contents of my checking account, which will be seriously depleted by just Christmas shopping. Still, because he's the only candidate who is anything but a mechanical robot banker drone, I want his message broadcast as widely as possible, even if I don't agree with every single thing he says, and even if he has no real chance of being elected. Note here, if they think he does have a chance, he'll simply have a heart attack and be eliminated before the election. He knows this too, but at 76, what would you rather do? Go out fighting, or die of prostate cancer in some drab, gray hospital? I know I'd rather do the Alamo thing. It's a lot more fun. We divide the $13 million by 65, and we get 200,000 supporters. If and only if the average person gave $65, which is probably low, so less than 200,000 people support Ron Paul. Well, maybe the average contribution was only $20. Let's try that. 13 million divided by 20 equals 650,000 people who support Ron Paul for president. That's about 0.6% of potential 2012 voters. Now let's turn things around and say there are 10 million people out of the 100 million potential actual voters for the 2012 election who support Ron Paul. And suppose that each one gave Ron Paul's campaign just 20 miserable bucks. Then Ron Paul would have $200 million in his war chest, and all the other politicians would be groveling in obeisance to the Constitution to get some of those bucks too. Now, $20 is a ridiculously small amount of money to redirect the fate of America from total disaster to a possible recovery, isn't it? But he hasn't raised $200 million. He's only got $13 million. So you see what I mean. There is no significant support for Ron Paul from the American people. In the words of the three-card money guys in New York City, money talks, bullshit walks. Of course, this is true of all the candidates. The people actually support no one. They just talk trash. And American politicians can be bought really cheap, too. They sell out to anyone for pennies on the dollar. If you want $1 billion government contract, you can have it for a couple of well-placed millions. Less than a penny on a dollar. This is why the AIPAC lobby controls America. They buy their politicians with cash, because they have long understood the value of a buck in politics. And now, after initially using their own money to buy all the politicians, they got them to permanently give Israel about $3 billion per year. And now they just use a part of that $3 billion to pay off their guys in Washington. Their ownership of America is now self-sustaining. This is really good political work on their part. The American people are simply too cheap to buy off their own politicians. They won't contribute to anyone at all. Imagine if politicians could depend on the actual American people to buy them off. We could pay them under the table and demand that they pretend to be patriots and support and defend the Constitution. And they do it too. They'll do anything for a buck. After all, they're just mindless robots. They only have to be reprogrammed. You program them with money instead of writing code. But then, it's like I've always said, the problem isn't getting the job done. It's getting someone to do it for nothing.